Today on Cooking with the Wooden Spoon, we are making homemade pizza crusts. If I had to guess one thing that I have made more than anything else over the years, it hands down is homemade pizza crusts. I started making these when I was in high school. My French teacher actually taught me how to make these, which sounds kind of weird, but uh, Saturdays she would invite my friend Kim and I to her house, and we would make all kinds of different food, which was really fantastic. But the thing that we made that I'm still making, homemade pizza crusts. Now we don't just make these, my husband and I actually sell these at a farmer's market every week. So it's kind of weird to go from making them with my French teacher to making them for a business, but it's pretty cool. We have fed many pizzas to many people from literally all over the world with these crusts. But my favorite story with these crusts is when Seth first went to kindergarten. He came home from school one day and he said, I asked my teacher if I could bring pizza for the whole class. And I told her, you make the best pizza. She said, sure, Seth, your mom can bring pizza for the whole class. Well, I did. It was great. And 5-year-olds don't eat as much as college students, which I've also fed a lot of. So it was okay. I was just happy that Seth is still proud and was proud of his mom's cooking. So, what do we need to get started for pizza dough? Not a whole lot. When I was young and I was first making pizzas, I did not have a stand mixer. So, if you don't have a stand mixer and you only have a spoon and a bowl, no big deal. You can still make these. It doesn't require really anything other than a bowl and a spoon or a fork for mixing. They are really very easy and very forgiving. We'll go ahead and get started. For this recipe, we only need 5 ingredients, all of which I almost always have on hand. You need yeast, sugar, flour, salt, and water. The recipe will be in the description on this video, but it really is quite easy. So first you need lukewarm water. Lukewarm water, an easy way to remember what is lukewarm is about what your usual body temperature is. So around 98 degrees. To the lukewarm water, you're going to add 1 tablespoon of sugar, 1 tablespoon of salt. Hopefully we have 1 tablespoon in here. I think we do. Okay, 1 tablespoon of salt. So you'll combine these two with the water. Just stir it. It'll become cloudy. You know that you're combined if you don't see anything on the bottom. If it's not fully combined, it really doesn't matter. With this recipe, I'm going to say that it really doesn't matter for a lot of things. Since I have made this so many times, I have made many mistakes with it, and it ends up working out okay. Even pizza crust with mistakes is better than store-bought any day. So I think this is pretty well combined. So we're gonna put this with 2 tablespoons of yeast. So you can see that our sugar and salt are pretty well combined into this lovely measuring cup, liquid measuring cup. I just used this handy dandy thermometer, and that's a little blurry. It is 100 degrees, which technically would be okay, but I'm going to let it come down a degree or two. You can definitely put water that is too hot in. If it's too cold, it doesn't matter as much, but if the water is too hot, then it will actually kill the yeast and your dough won't rise. So you want to be careful with your temperature. Oh, okay. I think we are just about ready to put our warm water in. If you don't have a fancy temperature gauge, don't worry about it. We're going to do 2 tablespoons of yeast into the stand mixer. Again, if you don't have a stand mixer, that's okay too. But this feels right. To be honest, I never use this fancy thing here. I always just feel it and see if it feels not as hot as a hot tub, but warmer than room temperature. So anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to add this. I give this a little stir, not much, and then I just let this sit for 5 minutes. For the flour, I just use generic Walmart all-purpose flour. It is enriched, bleached, and pre-sifted. One thing that I have been asked before, only from people who are of my age and older, is do you still have to sift your flour? The answer is no. Because flour is produced commercially, it is no longer in need of sifting. However, in saying that, Matt still aerates his flour, which I have started doing as well. And I didn't do that for a long time, but I do think that he is right. When you aerate your flour, it allows it to be more fluffy, and that makes the pizza crust better. So aerating, you just take your fork and you fluff it up. Easy peasy. Okay. So we're going to measure out 4 cups of flour into this bowl. I guess this is just what I do. I do continue to aerate it. So sticking the knife in there will allow some air in as well. I am not the neatest baker. My kids can attest to that. I always clean up as I go, but as far as making a mess, whew, my kitchen is a mess. And that is okay. Okay, so we got 3, and we're going to measure out 4. Now, I'm going to keep my container of flour close by as I add it in my mixer, because depending on a lot of things, the moisture in the air is one of them. Every time I make pizza crust, it requires a different amount of flour. And that's okay. That's just something that I've learned over the years. It's not always going to look the same as the time you made it before, and it will act differently depending on how much humidity is in the air. If it's a really humid day, then it requires, logical reasoning. It requires more flour. But if it's a dry day, then it doesn't require as much flour. But I'm going to show you how to tell as you make it how much flour it needs. I wanted to show you what your yeast will look like when it's ready for the flour to add. You can see bubbles on top, and if you stir it, it almost looks separated, and that's okay. So what I usually do is give it a little stir to incorporate everything, and then I will add the flour a little at a time, probably half, and then a little at a time. So we're going to add some flour. and then start mixing. There we go. One thing that I really, really like about pizza crust is you can use it for a lot of different things. One of the things that my French teacher showed me how to make is a dough ball. Well, we called them dough balls. My kids still love them. But basically what you do is you take some of the pizza dough and you put pepperoni and cheese or ham and cheese or broccoli, spinach and cheese, always cheese. And you roll up the outer dough and you pinch it and it becomes a dough ball and you can cook those. You can also make stromboli or calzones, which basically are different ingredients filled with pizza sauce that has just been folded over. And then you can also make the traditional pizza, which is what we have made the most. So you see how the flour is starting to incorporate, and that's awesome. I'm actually just going to go ahead. I can almost guarantee that I'm going to need more than 4 cups of flour. So I'm putting them all in. So my goal here, okay, here's a little hint. Cook or stir this on the lowest setting, because if you turn it to a higher setting, you'll have flour everywhere. This is the voice of experience. Experience is the best teacher, they say. Okay, so you can see how the dough is starting to form. It's starting to incorporate more of the flour. As the dough gets more and more flour, you can turn your speed up, and you should turn your speed up a little bit, but to avoid messes, I like to have it pretty well incorporated before I turn the hook up. Because this hook incorporates it so slowly and you keep mixing this for a while, in my experience, I haven't had to knead the dough, which is awesome because, to be honest, I hate kneading the dough. Even the bagels that we make, if Matt didn't help me with the kneading process, I'm just not sure that I would make bagels every week. But he is so kind and he helps me almost every week with the bagels. So see how it's starting to come away from the side of the mixer, the mixing bowl. Turn it up a little bit, lock it. That is what you want. And this is when you're going to be able to tell how much more you're going to need of the flour. It's looking good. So another way you can tell if your dough is getting close to ready, pull that up. Does it come up and stay on the hook? If yes, then you're getting closer. Also, you feel it. If you end up with dough on your finger, it needs more flour. It's not ready yet. Okay, we're going to add a little bit of flour, really just a scant amount, a little at a time. And you can see that it's a little bit more combined. More of the flour that's on the side is being picked up, just a little bit more. What we want is for the flour to be not sticky, but tacky. And I'll show you what that means as we go. We'll turn the mixer up. Forgive me if this is a little bit blurred. Can't really tell if it's the camera or the spot in my bifocals. So that's one of the fun things about getting older. Okay, so we're getting closer. I have less dough on my finger. Obviously, wash your hands before you start cooking anything. I always make that a practice, whether I'm cooking for the market or I'm cooking for my family. We're getting there. The really great thing about pizza dough is if I end up adding too much flour, I just add a little bit of water. So it's really nearly impossible to mess this up so bad that we can't use it. Okay, awesome. Look at that. So you can see how I'm pushing in and it's not coming back up. I suppose I had flour on my finger from last time, but it's getting there. I would give it just a tad more flour because I think it needs it. So we'll let it mix a little bit. Again, you can do this by hand. It's really not that difficult, and it's actually easier to figure out how much more flour you need if you do this by hand because you're actually touching it the whole time. But you do whatever works for you. Seth always says, you do you. And I actually say that in my head a lot. Okay, I think we're pretty much ready. Oh yeah, this is perfect. Nothing on my finger except for the stuff that was there before. So we'll use this one. I lied. Just a little bit tacky. Honestly, it really wouldn't matter if I stopped at this point, but I want you to see the ideal on what it should look like. So if we see the ideal, then the times that it's less than ideal, you will know. So it's working out great. It's a beautiful, beautiful little ball of dough. It smells really good too, actually. Okay, I think that is ideal. So today that ended up being about 4.5 cups of flour. There may be a day when it's just 4 or a little under 4. You just kind of have to go and test it out. Okay, what I have done is I've just put a little bit of oil on the bottom of any bowl. I put the dough in. Oh my goodness, it feels so nice. This would be like therapeutic. Oh, it's probably the UPS man. Bo has a very love-hate relationship with the UPS man. He loves that he brings him food, but he just hates that he's in his neighborhood. Hi, Bo. Okay, so this is ready to cover up and let sit. What I usually do is I take a paper towel, or you could use plastic wrap, but I take a paper towel and I soak it with hot water and I cover the bowl with the paper towel. And the hot water will actually help the dough rise a little bit. It will about double, which is what we're looking for. It takes about an hour for it to rise. You can lift the side and kind of check and see. I will put a picture of what the exact state is when it is ready. But thing with this dough, if you are pressed for time and your kids are saying they're hungry now, you really don't have to wait for it to rise that long. It'll rise in the oven. You could even do like a 15-minute rise and then cook the dough as is. It really truly doesn't matter. Whatever you have time for and the energy for, some days you just don't have the energy. So we're going to let this rise and come back to it. Okay, it's been about 45 minutes and we're going to take a peek at our dough. Oh, it is looking awesome. Awesome, 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 awesome. You can see that it has pretty much doubled in size, which is exactly what we want. And I think it's ready to roll. Okay, when we get to this point, we have choices. We can take this beautiful dough, we can roll it out onto a cookie sheet. If I were making this for my family, I would cut this in half and then I would do 2 pizzas, or I would do 1 pizza and breadsticks or whatever. And I would just roll the dough out onto the entirety of the cookie sheet with a little bit of olive oil. Today, I am making these for the market. So I am going to divide this dough into little sections so that I can make mini pizzas out of them. Now I have done this enough times that I know how many ounces I need. Actually grams, I do this in grams. Matt does everything in grams. I think it's kind of funny. So I do 80 grams for a mini pizza shell. That measured out 109. Again, you don't really have to be precise, but when I'm doing it for the market, I like the products to be the same every week. Maybe that was part of raising 3 kids, trying to make sure everybody gets the same amount. You know how that goes, even though my friend Marsha always says, life isn't fair. And that is true, life isn't fair. But we can make a fair division of mini pizzas for the market. So that's what we'll do. The first thing I do is I take out a chunk and I get it to be 80-ish grams. And then what I'm doing here is I'm pulling the pizza apart in little sections. Whether you do a big pizza or a mini pizza or whatever, I think that we talked about aeration before. It makes the pizza dough more fluffy if you pull it apart with your hands. And then I get to the point where I will roll. I kind of start in the middle and go 1, 2, 3, 4, and I find that that makes it pretty even. So we are going to put this on our tray. I already know that I can fit 6 of these on here. So all I'm going to do with this is I'm just going to fold in around the edges. You don't have to do that, but I like when it looks pretty. So that is what we will do. So you can hear Mr. Bo and his little paws on the floor. He loves birds. We've talked about that before. All day long, he goes from window to window to window to window, chasing birds. Makes him happy. We like happy bub. Huh. He's a happy bub. Okay, so we need about 80. When you get to this point, I was talking about choices. We can put all of the pizza dough here. We can make it into crusts, but we also have a choice on how we bake it. If we would like to have this right now for dinner, which is oftentimes what I will do when I get to this point, I will roll the whole thing out. I will put my toppings on my pizza and I will put it in the oven at 425 for about 15 to 20 minutes. In the description, I'm going to put both ways to do this. So that's one way you can do it. Any number of toppings, lots of different choices, but you can also do what is called parbaking, and that stands for partially baking, and that's what I do for the market. So I will take this tray and I will only cook it for 5 or 6 minutes. And what that does is that It bakes it enough that I can sell it, but it doesn't bake it the entire way because it's going to go through a second bake whenever whoever buys this cooks it. So what they will do then is they will put it in their oven for about an additional 5, 6, 7 minutes. What I like about this size here is that it fits perfectly in an air fryer. So there are days that Matt and I for lunches will take the par-baked mini pizzas and we will just put them in the air fryer. Another awesome benefit to these pizza crusts when you do par baking, and actually even if you don't par bake, this freezes so well. It is really easy to take a few hours. Wouldn't even take a few hours. Takes me a few hours because I am doing an enormous amount for the market. But if you're just doing a batch of these and you wanted to do a few trays of mini pizzas, you could knock that out in counting rising time a couple of hours. So you can bake a bunch and then put them in the freezer. I would recommend putting wax paper between the mini ones because when you take them out to thaw or unthaw, as they say in the Midwest, which I had never heard until we moved here, and I think it's hilarious. But correctly, if you take them out to thaw, they're a lot easier to pull apart if they have wax paper between them. So we are going to, so I have been pulling as I have been chit-chatting. So we are going to do 6 on this tray, and then I think we will probably get another couple of trays out of this. And then I'm going to show you what they look like when they come out of the oven when they're par-baked. So this is a par-baked crust. You can see that the dough is actually pretty light still, light in color, very airy. I actually love how just fluffy these mini pizzas are. I actually prefer my crust to be thin, but I do like these mini pizzas. So I'm going to flip this over and show you the bottom. It's pretty light as well. They are baked, so they're perfect to sell, perfect to put in your air fryer or your oven, however you would like to do them, but they're not the whole way baked. If they were the whole way baked, you would see a golden brown crust, and we'll do one of those a little bit later so you can see the different variations of the pizzas. But I think these are perfect, and some lovely people in Wisconsin are going to enjoy these when they get them at the market this weekend. So we saw what the Parbake crusts look like. I've actually got a bunch here. As you can tell, we're getting ready for a big market this weekend. The kitchen is very real. That's how it is. But anyway, we're very real. We are going to do a regular pizza crust, not just par-baked. So one of the awesome things about pizza is you can make it however you want. Matt and I both have different tastes when it comes to pizza. I love, veggies, and he loves plain. So Matt's pizza is going to be chicken barbecue cheddar. So we're gonna put some flour down for the crusts. We'll get moving on that. We'll do Matt's pizza first. So the first thing I do is, as I showed you earlier, kind of do the pull method to make it a circle. And then when it's ready, I'll use the rolling pin and go out from the middle, out from the middle, out from the middle, out from the middle. I'm going to put 2 pizzas on one tray. So we'll start forming Matt's pizza. So about that big is good. I turn the corners in. You don't have to. I think it looks prettier. I am pretty good about food presentation. Sometimes it matters more than other times. But doesn't it just feel better if your food looks better? It's not always important. But anyway, we are folding that down for Matt's pizza. It couldn't be easier to make Matt's pizza. I am going to use barbecue sauce as his sauce. He likes Sweet Baby Ray's, just like my friends Mark and Linda. I like Meat Mitch barbecue from Kansas City, where my sweet Seth is. This is seriously the best barbecue sauce. It has a little bit of heat, but it's okay that Matt likes things a little more mild, which is fine. So we're just going to put barbecue sauce on his pizza. You can make it as saucy or as dry as you like. Matt's kind of in the middle. Take a spoon and spread that out. Then I have some diced chicken that I will put on his pizza. More protein is always a good idea, right? Okay, and easy peasy, we will just put cheddar cheese on top of that. I have some fresh grated Hook's cheddar from Mineral Point, Wisconsin, one of the best cheeses that we have found. We are very happy to be in the land of cheese. We absolutely love it here. There you go. Matt's pizza is done. So we're going to cook that in the oven at 425. If you remember when we do, wrong one. When we do Parbake, we do 400. When we do regular, we do 425. So we're going to cook this the whole way through. So now we'll put my pizza together. I have fresh pesto sauce that I made earlier this week from my garden herbs. Pesto sauce is a staple. I always love when things are able to be frozen because I really enjoy having freshness. Okay, so frozen isn't fresh, but I like having stuff from the garden all year round. So pesto is one of the things that I always freeze. So whatever we don't eat of this before we leave for our vacay will go in the freezer and it will be great. So my pizza, again, I'm folding the crust over just because I think it looks pretty that way. My pizza is going to have pesto, lots of pesto because I love pesto, all things basil, I'm all for. So I will have pesto, tomatoes, chicken, spinach, and a little bit of balsamic drizzle, but I'm going to put the drizzle on after it comes out of oven because I think the flavor of the balsamic drizzle is maintained better if I wait until after it's cooked. So put our chicken on. I just sauteed some chicken breast with Justice Spice from Penzeys Spice Company. I have talked about here before. I absolutely love it. And they're local. I had no idea. So Justice Spice is probably one of my most used spices from Penzeys because it's salt-free and you can't tell that it's salt-free. It tastes very well developed and delicious. There we go. I can't wait until my garden tomatoes are ready for harvest. We're getting there. I've had 2 cherry tomatoes ready, and I have enjoyed those thoroughly. And more to come. I know I keep looking at my watch. Today is spa day for Beau. He gets a little nervous about spa day. It's just a haircut. But if we call it spa day, doesn't it sound a lot better? So he is there right now, and Matt is picking him up. I hope he did okay. I'm sure he did. Actually, I'm sure he didn't, and I'm sure he's going to punish us for it, but that's okay. So I'm going to put this in the middle of the oven, one of the middle trays. Move your trays around if you need to. And this is going to cook for about 15 to 20 minutes until it is golden brown around the outside. And I will show you what golden brown means. And the cheese will start to bubble and turn just a little bit brown as well. So we're going to put this in and come back in 15 minutes. Okay, pizza looks great. Here is what I mean by golden brown and bubbled cheese. I think it is absolutely perfect. Let's see if I can lift that up. That's what the bottom should look like. This is what your pizza should look like at the end of cooking. I did this 15 minutes and there's my timer. And it was perfect. Now we get to drizzle with balsamic glaze from my favorite store, Sanso's, in Homer City, Pennsylvania. And we can enjoy.